not going to give you a big fat intro about this car. I'm not going to tell you when it was launched, what's the history, what's the platform. It simply is not needed. It is of course the Tata Altroz, but this is unlike any Altroz out there. It is the new Altroz iTurbo, and what that means is you now have a Tata you buy if you want to drive it yourself. iTurbo is Tata's idea of a hot hatch with the focus being on the driver. It now gets a 1.2 litre turbo-petrol engine, and there have been some tweaks to the driving dynamics as well. Now let's get straight to business. What the Altroz iTurbo gets is a new engine. You now get a 1.2 litre turbo-petrol engine that you also see on the Tata Nexon. It is in the same state of tune as well, which means you get 108 bhp, and 0 to 100 is claimed to be under 12 seconds. Now those aren't really hot hatch numbers and it's nothing to get excited about, but it definitely has made the Altroz a lot better this time round. The driving dynamics have improved a lot. The engine performance is definitely very good this time around. So if you are someone who likes to drive, I think you really appreciate this engine. The other areas where it differs from the Nexon is that the engine is now set a lot lower thanks to this not being an SUV, and you also have a 200 kilogram weight advantage. And of course you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know how much of a difference 200 kgs can make, especially when you're out on a drive. In the corners, the Altroz now feels agile and the engine is a lot more responsive. Power delivery too is strong and you never really struggle for grunt. Now mated to this new engine is a 5-speed manual gearbox. Now you might think 5-speed is a bit less, where is that 6th gear, especially on the highway? And honestly, it's not so bad. You know, even at 100 kph, the car hovers around 2500 rpm, and that's not too bad because refinement levels are very good. You don't really hear the engine get coarse or strained. It is seriously not a problem. However, what you won't like are these gear gates. I mean, slotting in the gears, it is well defined, but it just doesn't feel as sporty or as immersive as it should. You know, as a driver's enthusiast car, the gear gates aren't the best. The gearing though is absolutely perfect. You get power in almost every gear. It is a linear power delivery, and you also get a strong gust in the second half of the rev range, especially after 4000 rpm. There's that little bit of a second wind that you get from the turbo, and that is very impressive. So in terms of outright driving, you won't have too much to complain about unless you compare it to its rivals like the Hyundai i20 and even the Volkswagen Polo. Now, like I said, outright performance is a lot better than the standard petrol engine. The iTurbo really has made a difference, and what helps its case is this button right here. It is of course a sports mode. You get an eco mode on the standard car, but on this, of course, being a more driver focused car, you have a sport mode. Press this. Sport drive mode activated. There's a fair bit of warning, and after that what you notice is the engine get a lot more responsive. Power delivery also is a lot better this time round, and overall there's no reason that I see that you need to switch it off. My suggestion would be to put it on while the time of delivery and leave it there. Don't ever touch it, because with a car like this you always need that extra response. That extra grunt is always appreciated. There have been other small improvements overall as well. So the engine has made the Altroz a lot better, but what about handling? You see, on a road like this, a car like this, a driver focused car, a driver centric car, has to be good in terms of handling, and thankfully Tata has not just plonked in a more powerful engine, they have made other changes as well. The suspension for one has been retuned. It is now slightly on the firmer side. Don't get me wrong, the Altroz still is an excellent car in terms of ride quality. The comfort is very good, it is supple. The suspension is still on the softer side in comparison to its rivals, but overall there is a hint of firmness. What is also retuned is the steering. You now get a lot more weight, it is more consistent, and it just feels nice around the corners. It feels fluid. I think that's what owners would appreciate a lot. It goes to show that Tata really wants to make a difference with this car and not just add more power and more grunt and be done with it. This one is what the Altroz should have always been. Is it a hot hatch? No, it isn't. The i20 Turbo is more powerful and the Polo GT TSI feels more poised, but this isn't a comparison. The Altroz is a lot better car this time round. So how do you spot an iTurbo from a distance? Well, honestly, you can't, because not a lot has changed on the exterior. Apart from this iTurbo badge and this new shade of Harbour Blue, there hasn't been any exterior change to the Altroz, and that's not really a bad thing because people love the way it looks. Looks are the highlight of the Altroz, and I think that's not a bad thing. The interior is the same. There hasn't been much that has been changed, but there are a few quirks. Let's just quickly take a look. What also is part of the Altroz iTurbo is the new IRA. It is Tata's version of the app-based tech, and you get 27 features like geofencing, collision alert, remote car, lock unlock, all just a glance away. Now, like I said, not a lot has changed with the interior of the iTurbo. You get these lovely wide opening doors, and when you step inside, it is all very familiar. The build quality is top-notch, fit finish is excellent. The slight changes are with the seats. You now get leather upholstery, and you also get this nice tri-arrow design. Feels a touch premium and definitely adds to that sporty appeal as well. And then you have the express cool button, you have all these switch gears, perfect. You have this Harman 7-inch infotainment system. Again, not the biggest, but it's not a problem. It looks and feels like it belongs in this car. The additions are these two front tweeters, again tuned by Harman. Sounds excellent, and you really have to sit in here to experience them. Then, like I said, you have the sports button, and overall the quality of cabin is excellent. Space and roominess was never really a problem. That is carried forward as well. You have this nice chunky steering, flat bottom. You have the semi-digital instrument cluster, again a big plus to have, feels premium. And in the back as well, the seats are nice and comfy. Space, again, not a problem. So overall, if you see, the turbo, the iTurbo hasn't really been too much of a departure from the older car, and that is not a bad thing. These nifty little things that have been added definitely add to the overall appeal of the car. The Altroz never had many flaws. In fact, there was very little that was wrong with it in the first place. It looks great, it packs in a lot, it is spacious and comfortable, and with this new engine, it is a lot nice to drive. Is it a hot hatch? Of course not. But is this the Altroz to buy? It definitely is.